First off, there is a new head of Dungeons and Dragons. Wizards hired someone new. He does not come out of the tabletop world.
Mm-hmm. He is a tabletop player,
according to
the press release.
You and I are on the same page there. So their new head, senior vice president for the D&D brand is now a guy named Dan Rawson. They posted it 4 months ago. He used to work for Microsoft Dynamics 365, Coupang, which is apparently a South Korean online marketplace, and Flipkart, an Indian e-commerce company. He went to Harvard and Kellogg. He's a former Marine captain, for whatever that's worth. Lead D&D's overall brand growth. So here's what this tells me. You know that thing we've been talking about for a few weeks about them like leaning heavily into digital and getting away from books?
100%.
This is
a big waving a big flag saying here is what our path looks like.
Our head of brand
when you hire the guy that was the head of Microsoft Dynamics 365, you are looking for someone that can really run wild in a digital realm.
Yeah.
And draw that in and run that. And that's definitely what they're looking for here, what they went looking for. And his resume seems to speak to that pretty highly.
Yeah. And the press release stated, Mr. Rawson's e-commerce skill set and digital first experience will lend itself to the continuing the support of D&D Beyond alongside Dungeons & Dragons overall. So, I'm going to come back here.
The conversations that we have had, that you and I have had, that you've had with some of the other co-hosts here.
So, I want to clarify something for chat. They have not specifically said that D&D 1 is going to be a push to 100% digital. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on the show a couple times. Some of y'all who've come into my store hear me talk about this. Although I do have some updates on this, which is interesting. Something I noted today that I am a little surprised about. It's kind of annoying me a little bit because it means more work for me, but something I did note, and I do want to bring into the conversation. They have not said that they are pushing to 100% digital yet. My theory is D&D 1 will be the pivot in that direction. I would say there is a 60% chance they are going to release one more new PHB. One. For whatever the next final. And I don't even think they're going to call it 6th edition. I think they will release a player's handbook in physical format for whatever they call the next one, but I don't think they will call it 6th edition. I think they're just going to call it Dungeons & Dragons.
I think so too. I think they're going to ditch the edition. I think they're just going to go with Dungeons & Dragons as the brand. Mm-hmm. They will continue to release products under like their sub-brand or their campaign headings, for example. But yeah, I think everything's just going to go Dungeons & Dragons. That's it.
Yep. And I think that so the next one's supposed to release sometime late next year. My guess is that by 2026, at the latest, they will stop producing physical books. You will not be able to find them anymore. They'll probably keep going with like Michael said, campaign stuff, certain other books, and those will be collector's editions only, like special.
Well, and you'll still, I was gonna say they'll still be doing like I think they'll still probably have the things like through Beetle and Grimm, where it's like super special editions or collector's editions, hardcovers. Like you can get those books in print, but they're not going to be like mass release.
Not like they are now.
Not like they are now.
Speaking of which, so they just actually released a brand new starter set. There is a brand new Dungeons & Dragons starter set.
Yep. Which involves some of the characters from the old 80s cartoon show.
Yep.
As the PCs.
And I had somebody ask me about it a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even know it was coming. It actually showed up at my store today. And it is Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. Mm-hmm. Is the newest one. So Target got it back in July. Yesterday was the general release date. Mm-hmm. I do have it. It's very much like their other starter sets. It's
it's exactly what you would expect from the starter set.
And honestly, it's a good deal. Here's the thing. If you're trying to get people into Dungeons and Dragons, I have always loved that product. It's $20. It comes with a set of basic polyhedral dice, the little adventure book, a little mini player's handbook, some character sheets, and some tchotchkes. I like it. Right? I really, really do. And again, that's the stuff that I think they will release physically in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be products that will get you in the door, gateway products, and that will also then lead you to the digital product.
Yeah. So that's my guess. So, and I actually sold a few copies way too early. I'm not sure what you mean there, chat. So clarify that one for me.
The Dragon of Stormwreck Isle, that product was accidentally released early by, I believe some people bought it in Target early. Some people bought it at third-party retailers before it was supposed to be available.
Yeah, release date was yesterday. I got mine today.
We'll see if our friend Aaron Brooks here gives us a little bit more information as we go forward. But
the other thing that I noted, and this was something, so D&D, and this was a conversation that I had with, they sold some starter sets early. Yeah, so it was a Target exclusive in July. But
I know it sold out. It sold out around me. I went looking for it, and I wasn't able to actually get it in my hands until about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I have some now. So the thing that's interesting to me is Wizards hasn't heavily supported, although now I'm starting to get stuff from them. And they've added D&D, so their system for tracking events that they use like with their stores. Previously, I could only put Magic stuff on there, right? It was just for Magic the Gathering. So,
if I could ask, and I'm fairly sure I know the answer here, but you are running an Adventurers League out of the store, right?
No, I'm not running Adventurers League. I am running Dungeons and Dragons. So,
okay. I thought somebody was running Adventurers League out of your store.
No.
Okay.
We do not run AL. We do run Dungeons and Dragons. So we have a 5th edition campaign with a campaign setting that has been developed initially by me and now with a team. It's actually under the banner of Humanoid.
Okay.
It is a new campaign setting. Whole cloth, brand new, built from the ground up. We've got our wiki running now. We've got our stuff. What's interesting was from D&D, when I asked them what kind of support they provide for Dungeons & Dragons, like they do for Magic, I was told in no uncertain terms they don't. Now they've started sending stuff out, and you can now put D&D events in EventLink.
Okay.
Which is their system that they use for organized play for Magic. This is new. And it makes me wonder what they're doing. Because this was not the direction they were pushing even 3 months ago. As far as, and the support from like 2-3 months ago. So it's interesting. Something's going on over there, and I don't really have clear visibility, but something's happening. So take that for what it's worth.
Nice to have an insider's view, at least, from, the inside that you're in.
Yeah. I mean, I said, now I got to add everything to EventLink, which is kind of a pain. We chose not to do Adventures League, because our community didn't want it. They wanted something different. And so we've been running a living campaign for 9 months and some change now. And until somebody proves me otherwise, I'm fairly certain it's the largest running D&D organized play in the Seattle Metro. If somebody can prove to me otherwise, I'll take that off my thing. But right now we've got so many active players. It's bonkers.
That's awesome.
No. And like I said, so please don't anybody ever take what I say on the show to be like, I hate D&D. I don't hate D&D. I don't see D&D as a competitor for IDENTECO. They are two very different games. They're two very different markets. I view D&D as just, it's another game out there, right? Wizards is a company. I got no issue with D&D. I'm not a huge personally, this is me, Alex, talking. I have not been a big fan of fantasy for a long time, right? That being said, my community loves D&D. We're going to run D&D, but we're going to run it in a different way, and we're going to run it in a way that I find interesting because I have to actually run these games, right? But we're not breaking the rules. We're doing the thing.
You know, if just I'll put this out there. If you ever, you know, say want to put together, I don't know, an actual play podcast or, you know, stream with this, you know, this whole cloth world that you've created, you know, this campaign world you've created for 5e, I'd certainly be interested.
Well, we have your resume on file, I think, Michael.
You do. You've got some voice samples. You know, you guys, you know where to find me.
Yep. Also on the D&D thingy, apparently the D&D movie is getting 2 tie-in prequel novels. Why?
Oh, because I mean, let's be real about it, right? With all of the other press, all the other products, and everything else that's out there for D&D as a brand, like, it makes zero sense to release a movie and not release as many possible tie-ins as you can to try to take advantage of the fact that you actually have a movie coming out for this thing. That,
but I
you know, if you had asked me 5 years ago if we were going to see another D&D movie, I would have said probably not. So
here's the thing. If it was almost any other IP, fine. First off, prequel novels, as far as tie-in products, is probably the safest for them. That being said, they better be careful. The wrong tie-in stuff is going to push the community away.
You know, it all depends. I know I have.
If I see the Happy Meal, like, that's it,
dude. If they do a D&D Happy Meal, I'm buying it. I will. I'll buy it. I'll be the person that's like, I love that. Give me that crisp pine toy right there. I want that one in with my 4-piece nugget and fry. Like, that's, you know.
And Chad's telling me it's been a decade since the last D&D novel. And D&D had some great novel series. They had the Dristord and stuff. They had Dragonlance, which was Dragonlance.
Now wait a minute. That's not necessarily true, Tip, because I believe they just released a Dragonlance novel.
Yeah, right? That might be a new. I'll be honest. I lost track of Dragonlance a long time ago. Because again, like, I started falling away from fantasy.
I believe, and I could be totally wrong. I believe there's been a new novel in the Drist series in the last 8 years.
I don't know.
I'm not looking at a wiki for that. I'm again basing it on anecdotal evidence. I believe I've seen that stuff, but again, I can be totally wrong. I'm certainly happy to admit it if I am.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, in print. It's a good question. I have no idea. I just thought it was interesting that they're having to. The only other reason I can think of them doing this is because, like, they had to cut stuff out of the movie, and they're like, please read the book so you understand something that's happening here.
But I mean, again, movie tie-ins, especially when it comes to, like, pop culture type of things, like superhero books, for example, superhero movies. Like, again, like Batman, Superman, all of the Marvel movies, they've all had their own tie-ins in their comic book lines as well. You know, to try and at least tell more story or tell prequel story, or just to get us some extra sales using some artists that they have on call or, you know, on retainer to be able to produce content for them. And if it makes them a little extra money, you know, I'm not going to, you know, poo-poo that.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a couple of friends that do freelance writing for modules, and for various companies. And I know one of them has mentioned that they believe one of the modules that they did some work on in the last 6 months is likely going to be used in a tie-in for this movie.
Oh, really? That'd be kind of cool. That's just fun.
Again, that's the impression that they get. That was not like a definite yes, this is happening, but, you know, again, take, you know, grain of salt, as it were.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
But if they were to, I can only assume that they're going to release, you know, they're going to release digital tie-in products, adventures. They'll release stat sheets for all the characters.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
that's going to happen.
I mean, they're gonna have to, again, if they've got this movie coming out, they're gonna have to basically bite whole hog on. Let's just make everything about this movie and do as much as we can to drive traffic to it and pull customers from it.
And that actually is now connecting some dots for me. Is if they're trying to start sending stuff to us for D&D promotion, if they're really pushing D&D promo, I wonder. It really makes you wonder if that's why this is happening, because we're about 5-6 months out from the movie.
Yeah, it would make sense from a promotional standpoint that they want to get that ball rolling in that next 3 to 6 months.
Yep. So that's really interesting. That just connected, which could feed into the sudden change in some of the promotional stuff for D&D. Wow, I didn't even connect that dot, but now I am. That's interesting. I'll keep you all posted. I'm curious what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to start digging some stuff with Wizards, so we'll find out.